And I stopped watching the game, and then I look at the box score later, and they won. It's supposed to be a free play, clearly jumps offside, not even like a little neutral. It's like he literally jumps past the line of scrimmage. Oh my God. If you've seen the AP poll, what a joke. Missouri has been one of the most wonderful surprises of the year. I think they are this year's Indiana. They play Penn State. It's almost like a guaranteed win. They are finally starting to take the training wheels off. Here is my Week 6 top 25 teams. And welcome to the Hot Seat of College Football Show. I am Trent, your host, on a beautiful Thursday afternoon right outside of Columbus, Ohio. We are 2 days away from Week 6 of the college football season. And what I said last week and a couple weeks ago, I wanted to do my top 25 teams after Week 5 because we had so many big games, and now we actually have a really good picture of what we think the teams are and kind of the outlook of how the season is going to go. And after kind of Week 5 with the Oregon Penn State overtime thriller, Georgia Bama, LSU Ole Miss, now we know a lot more about these teams. Most teams have had a chance to play a big team. Most teams have had a chance to go on the road and play a team. So I thought this would be a good week to do another one of these top 25 teams. So I'm going to bring it up right now. Here is my Week 6 top 25 teams. I thought about this pretty well, and kind of my philosophy with it is kind of like, part of it is resume. A lot of it's resume. Some of it's power rating, some of it's head-to-head. But the difference between this and I think others is deserving. Like Oklahoma. I bumped down Oklahoma a little bit because of the loss of John Mateer. If Oklahoma and Penn State play, or if if A&M and Penn State, or if Missouri played Texas, or if Missouri played Penn State, I would still think Missouri would win, or Texas and Penn State would win against Missouri. But Missouri's undefeated, and they've looked really impressive against, even though they're lower teams, they've looked better than Texas, even though we kind of know roster-wise that probably Texas and Penn State are better. But this is my current top 25. So we're going to start at 25, and this was kind of between two teams, between Memphis and USF. And my kind of reasoning with putting Memphis above USF is, one thing, Memphis is undefeated, and that USF, I get it's Miami. That you went on the road against the number 3 team in the country, but USF really did not look very good against Miami, and Memphis but Arkansas. And I just think when it comes to group of 5 teams going to the playoff, and every week I'm probably going to throw a group of 5 team at that 25 spot, is just because one of them has to get in the playoff, and usually it's the one with the best record that gets in the playoff. And right now with Memphis with a win over Arkansas, I think is right now the best top 25 team, but you could flip it. I could go USF. At number 24 is USC. And this might be a little surprising. Like, my thing is, if a team is rated 21, so when USC played Illinois, it was 21 versus 23. USC lost by 2 points on the road, and if home field advantage is 3 points, that means they're they would have won by 1 point. And I'm not going to dock them that much for that. We all thought Illinois was really bad. I think Indiana caught them on a really bad day. That Indiana-Illinois game started with an Indiana, I think it was a blocked punt for a touchdown. So I think after all of that, it really unraveled for Brett Bielema. But also, we've seen Indiana do this before. I said this a lot. Last year, they did the same thing to Nebraska, and Nebraska wasn't nearly as bad as how they played in that game. So I'm going to give a little grace with Illinois and get a little grace for USC. And honestly, at 24, it was kind of between the USF or USC, and I put them who would I think would win? I think USC would win. I still do think USC is a top 25 team. They will get a chance at redemption because they fell out of the AP poll, but they will they host Michigan in I think 2 weeks. So, or maybe 2 or 3 weeks. So watch out for that game. That is a must-win for both teams to avoid their second loss. So at 23, and actually a team that has USC's old quarterback, is Miller Moss. And what an impressive win on the road at Pitt. It was a game where they were down by double digits nearly the entire game. They were down 17-0 at the end of the first quarter, down by 10 at halftime. They come all the way back, and then they're down 10 again in the fourth. And I stopped watching the game, and then I look at the box score later, and they won 34-27 against Pitt. And even though Pitt lost to West Virginia, who's god-awful, it's a rivalry game, I still think Eli Holstein is a good quarterback. I think Pitt is still a decent team. So I'm going to throw Louisville at 23. They did not look very impressive versus James Madison a couple weeks ago. That was a Friday night game. But they're undefeated. They have a couple Power 4 wins. Them and Georgia Tech, who's right above them, were my dark horses before the season. So that will bring us to 22 and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech really shouldn't be ranked. And I had them top 15 before and dropped them all the way down 22 when they won. That's because they lost. If you've seen the game, I think Wake Forest was up by 3. They had the ball. First down ends the game, and the Georgia Tech defender, the edge rusher, jumps offside. It's supposed to be a free play. He clearly jumps offside. It's not even like a little neutral. It's like he literally jumps past the line of scrimmage. And they throw the ball, and it's incomplete. The clock stops, but it should be a free play, and I think it wouldn't have been a first down, but it wouldn't have been a 5-yard penalty. So like 3rd and 6 would have been like a 3rd and 1. The quarterback sneak, win the game. But no, it's now 4th and 6. The clock stops because it was incomplete. They don't get the offsides, and they punt the ball. Georgia Tech runs all the way down the field, kicks a field goal, wins in overtime with Wake Forest having a failed 2-point conversion. The officials completely stole this game from Georgia Tech. I still think Georgia Tech is a good team. They should have lost, and this is kind of what happens with Brent Key, is that Brent Key, he's 7-1 versus ranked ACC opponents. That I think is the best winning percentage in the ACC currently, maybe behind Clemson. But when they play teams like Wake Forest and teams like Virginia, who also got a really big win on Friday last week, and like these unranked opponents, they don't show up and they lose, which is why they almost beat Georgia last year. They beat Miami. They beat Florida State. They beat Clemson this year, but then they always go like 8-4, 7-5, 6-6. But like, how they beat all the good opponents? Well, they didn't show up, like college football is. You don't show up some days, you get beat by some bad teams. And I guess you could say Louisville looks more impressive than Georgia Tech. But my reasoning for, even though they're both undefeated, my reason for having Georgia Tech above Louisville is Louisville is in the ACC and they're ranked. Which means if they were to play, I don't care how bad Georgia Tech looks, if they were to play if Louisville were to play Georgia Tech and they're ranked at 23, they would lose because Georgia Tech beats the crap out of every ranked ACC opponent. So coming at 21, in a team that was higher, dropped out of a loss, but still for some reason is not in the AP poll, is Mississippi State. And oh my God, if you've seen the AP poll, what a joke. They're 4-1. They beat Arizona State. Arizona State is also 4-1, but Arizona State is ranked and Mississippi State is not ranked. Which is, I mean, they proved before that USC beat writer. She proved that they don't watch the games. It's pretty obvious they don't watch the games. We're moving Florida up when they lose. We're having teams with the same record over teams that got beaten by the other team that's lower. It's just like, it is an absolute joke from the AP poll. So I got Mississippi at 21, and actually kind of going through this first 5, I didn't have Virginia on here just because of how college football works. A lot of it is so much on a bell curve. Florida State, I think, was looking ahead. They played to their top. Florida State played to like their D+, C- game on the road at night on a Friday. It's just in double overtime. It's just like they lost to NC State. NC State is not a very good team. Their quarterback, CJ Bailey, is really good, but the rest of that roster I don't think is very good. So I got Virginia right off this list. But that will bring us to 20, where I do have Illinois. I do think Illinois has played better than some of these teams above them, but just I can't overlook that loss to Indiana. They looked very good against USC. They should have won that game by double digits. They had 2 fumbles at like the 1 yard line. So they're going to be at 20. Who do they play this week? I don't think they play anybody important, or they're on a bye week. They're at Purdue, so maybe not a great matchup. Purdue is a lot better this year, which is weird because they lost all their good players. Like Dylan Thieneman, the guy that had the interception at Penn State, Max Clare, the tight end now at Ohio State. Great players. And then Will Helt, the transfer that went to Clemson. All very good players, but Purdue was terrible, and now that they're gone, they're better at it. They put up 30 points on Notre Dame. But that Illinois game last year, I know a lot of you probably even watched that game. That game was a 50-49 shootout. So maybe a little upset alert. We will see. But I do have Illinois at 20, at 19, in a team that I actually would put higher, just because, the 2 losses they have is to the number 3 and 5 team in the country by a total of 4 points. They've looked phenomenal. Notre Dame has looked better than I think every single team on this row. They're at 19. They're 2 losses. They have 2 losses. If they're going to go 10-2, win, they'll keep going up. My only reason for having them this low is just because, look, your defense looked great against Arkansas, but I think Arkansas was just really bad. Sam Pittman got fired, and you allowed 30 points to Purdue. Even though I think Purdue is a lot better than they were last year, you still allowed 30 points to Purdue. I got you at 19. I got Michigan at 18, and that's simply just because the win over Nebraska is a Power 4 win and a decent win, something that Notre Dame does not have. So I got Michigan at 18. They will host Wisconsin. That will be the big noon selection this weekend. The spread for that game is something like 16.5. Take Michigan to cover and probably take the under. That game is probably going to be something like 31-3, 31-0. Like, Wisconsin is so bad. They're trying to get their quarterback Billy Edwards back, but with the injury that he's been going through, it's not going to work, and especially in the big house. So I got Michigan at 18. I think Bryce Underwood will look better throughout the season. He has looked good statistically, is not very good. But I am very curious to see the approach of Bryce Underwood, especially on the ground, now that Sharon Moore is back and not Biff Poggi. So at 17, a team that dropped, so they were ranked 4. I think I probably had them like 6. So they've dropped 11. That is LSU. That Clemson win is doing nothing for them now. It actually probably hurts them since they only won that game by 7. They looked fine against Ole Miss. Ole Miss should have scored more points than that. They also had a thing where they had a long touchdown pass and then fumbled at the 5. LSU got the touchback. LSU had a chance to make this game like a field goal with a 2-point. They didn't get it. LSU had plenty of opportunities to win this game. Their defense is really good, but for some reason, it's just their offense is bad. Nussmeier is regressing. They can't run the ball without Durham. And even with Barry and Brown, Nick Anderson, those receivers, the transfer from Kentucky, it's not working out for him. Do I think LSU is going to make the playoffs? If I can bring up their schedule right now. So they are on a bye week this week. Then they play South Carolina at Vanderbilt, A&M at Alabama, Arkansas, Western Kentucky at Oklahoma. So South Carolina at Vanderbilt, A&M, I think they will lose one of those. So that will be a second loss. Then a bye week, then at Alabama, I think that's a third loss, and then at Oklahoma. This team could go 7-5. This team could go 8-4. I don't see this team making the playoff. Their offense has not been good at all. So I got LSU at 17, and oh boy, at 16, and actually exactly where I have him in the AP poll has him, is Vanderbilt. And I was very close to putting Vanderbilt above Tennessee. I just think Tennessee's performance versus Georgia. I just think that was a very impressive performance. But I do have Vanderbilt at 16. They will head on the road to Tuscaloosa, Alabama to play the Tide. They're around 10.5-point underdogs in that game. We will cover that game tomorrow in Last Minute Lock, so make sure you come back tomorrow to watch that. Watch that video the second it comes out tomorrow afternoon. This team is fun. Last year, they were all magic. This year, I think they're all grit. I think Diego Pavia is something like a Cam Scadaboo at quarterback. Eli Stowers is one of the best tight ends in the entire country. And I think Clark Lee, for an SEC coach, I think he's pretty decent. So I got Vanderbilt at 16. Do I think they're going to win in Tuscaloosa? You'll find out tomorrow. But I do have them at 16. And then another team in the state of Tennessee is Tennessee. So I got Tennessee at 15. Joey Aguilar. I mean, what a story. Like, this whole thing with Nico and the trade has just been completely wild. So if you don't know, Nico transferred from Tennessee, who was a playoff team last year. He goes to UCLA, and then UCLA's quarterback who transferred that same season, Joey Aguilar, who came from Appalachian State, who's a group of 5 team, and I think West Virginia. He goes to UCLA, and then they practically trade. Nico goes to UCLA, and then his brother Madden also goes to UCLA, and then Tennessee's like, fine, we'll just take their quarterback Joey Aguilar now at UCLA. They practically trade quarterbacks. It's the first ever like college trade, if you want to call it that. And I'm actually curious if we might see more of that. But so there's the trade, and then UCLA is terrible. I think they're going to go 0-12, and I think this will be one of the most famous stories throughout the next decade of a kid trying to extort his school for money. He goes to UCLA, gets a fraction of the money on a horrible team, and a team that was probably projected to go 5-7, maybe 6-6. I kind of thought Nico was going to be pretty decent there. They are going to go 0-12. They just lost to Northwestern last week, and the rest of their schedule is super tough. Maybe they can get a win against Maryland, and then, I don't know, even at Michigan State is tough for them. I mean, they got blown out by New Mexico at home. So, Joey Aguilar is balling at Tennessee. The only thing that isn't balling is that defense, who lost a ton of production last year. Gerard McCoy, who did come back, but got hurt in the offseason. He's out for the year. James Pierce getting drafted. I'm trying to think who else they got drafted. I don't remember. I just remember they lost a lot of production from that defense. That was a top 5 defense last year. And this year it's just been okay. They allowed a couple points, like 26 points to Syracuse. Obviously had the shootout against Georgia, which honestly is propelling Tennessee because that offense looked phenomenal, even without Squirrel White and Dylan Sampson. This team is replacing a lot, but they have looked good. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? No. But I do think they'll be a fringe playoff team in somewhat late October, early November. So that will bring us to 14, and that is Texas Tech. I am lower on Texas Tech than the AP poll is. They have Texas Tech over Georgia. I just think with Texas Tech, I think they're my highest Big 12 team that's still in the Big 12. I think Texas Tech is good. They beat up on Utah. That was a really close game in the fourth. But they had a good one on the road versus Utah. And honestly, it looks like with Hammond or Morton, both of those quarterbacks, they can win with either. So whatever one's healthy, I still think will be very good. I think Hammond is more of a gunslinger than Barrett and Morton is. But I got them at 14. I think that defense is really good. I think that offense needs to work. They're a little clunky. Had a lot of turnovers versus Utah. Utah is a good defense, but still a lot of turnovers in that game. And that will bring me to 13, which is Penn State, who's a team that I think I had. I don't do top 25s every week, but I think I had them somewhat at like 3 or 4. I was pretty high on them. and I dropped them 10 spots. Losing double overtime, I know, but I think the second they lost, it was, okay, that's the preseason. Feelings are over since this is the first actual team they've had to play. They only played Group of 5 in FCS before. They had no warm-up games really for this game. They did have a bye week, though. And the reason why I kind of am at 13 is one thing, all of the teams above them have a way better resume. And looking at their schedule, they got to play Ohio State and Indiana. And I think they'll probably split. I think they'll probably lose to Ohio State and beat Indiana and go 10-2. But Indiana's a top 10 team. And if they lose both of those games and go 9-3, they'll probably be ranked around this 13-15 range. Which is why I have them there, because they haven't proved they can beat anybody. So why project them to be in the playoff if they are not looking like they can beat anybody? Because they never do. So then I have Texas at 12. They will have a chance at redemption. I get Florida is 1-3, but I do think they are the best 1-3 team. I think they're better than Clemson. So they will go on the road, and I'm excited for this game. I think this will be a super low-scoring game. Both of these defenses, I think, are probably top 5, top 10. The only question is offense. We will see how Arch does on the road. I got Texas at 12. And really the reason why I kind of have them over Penn State is because Texas lost to a team ranked one spot higher. Penn State ranked one spot lower, like 1-2, Ohio State and Oregon, the two losses, and then Texas, Penn State. Texas lost on the road. Penn State lost at home. And also, I've seen Texas look complete. Yes, it was against Sam Houston. I have not seen Penn State look complete at all year. At least we got to see it once against Texas, which is why I have Texas one spot ahead of Penn State. So that will bring us now, because really, if it was a playoff, that 12 seed would be Memphis, or whatever the Group of 5 team would be. So now these are our top 11 actual playoff teams, and that is Missouri. And a team that some people like RJ Young were kind of high on. I was not high on them at all. Missouri has been one of the most wonderful surprises of the year. I think they are this year's Indiana. And they're just fun. Ahmad Hardy, the running back for them, he's not a Genty or a Scadaboo or like a Judkins or Travion. He's not like one of those running backs, but he is just he's just a tough dude. Maybe you could say he's something like a Quinshon Judkins, kind of what we saw last year, but he is fun to watch. Obviously they lost Luther Burden the third, the receiver, who I don't even know what NFL team he's on right now. And then they lost Brady Cook. But now they have the transfer from Penn State, Brett Prabula, who was kind of left in the dirt by Penn State. Not really, but he was the backup. He was never going to see the field. And he's looked so much better than Drew Aller. I don't know what was going on at Penn State's quarterback evaluations and what they were thinking, but I got Missouri at 11. They're undefeated with a really impressive win over Kansas in a rivalry game. They beat South Carolina, who I know was unranked when they played. But it was still, they still have Lenore Sellers. And Lenore Sellers played in this game. They still have Dylan Stewart and Nick Harbor. So I got, I got Missouri at 11. And that will bring us to our top 10. I know it's cut off a little bit at the bottom. But I got Georgia. And I think the win over Tennessee is kind of boosting them. It's kind of hard to look past what happened last weekend, which is why they're not higher. They have to be below Bama. I'm kind of forgetting a little bit about the Austin Peay game. That happens every year with Georgia. I got them at 10. I still think the AP has them at 12, which is the first team out of the playoff. I got them at 10. I still think they're a playoff caliber team. The only thing with that Alabama game is it might be a mental thing, but also Georgia gets Alabama's best shot every year. I get they're not technically rivals, but Alabama, it almost looks like they try harder in that game than they do against Tennessee or LSU or Auburn. So I got them at 10. I got to question the game plan against Alabama. I do think they'll rise. They got to play the next. Who are they on a bye week? No, okay. They host Kentucky. So their next 3 games are Kentucky, at Auburn, Ole Miss, then a bye week. I think if you win all three of those, especially the Ole Miss, who is ranked high, it can propel you back up into the standings. So I got Georgia at 10. At number 9, I got Alabama. And this, I mean, you talk about most improved, like give them like an NFL comeback award. I mean, screw Joe Burrow. Give it to Alabama. Give it to Kalen DeBoer, because the team that we saw against Florida State is not this team. If this team played Florida State week 1, Alabama wins this game. Wins that game, sorry. So they looked impressive against Georgia. Both, I could say, well, the freshman receiver at Georgia dropped the touchdown pass, but like so did Ryan Williams. So it's you could toss up. I mean, the game could go either way. I do think Georgia. I do think Bama has a better roster. I think Georgia probably has better. I think Kirby's a better coach than DeBoer, but DeBoer's 2-0 against him. And Georgia, you gotta stop doing this thing where you let everyone jump you, and then you want to we want to look really impressive and come back. And for the most part, it works. It works for the most part. Tennessee this year, it worked. You came all the way back from 21-7. Who did you play? Georgia, the Notre Dame game, you got beat by doing that. Georgia Tech, you're lucky to be down 17-0 at home at halftime. Before that game was the Tennessee game, they were down 10-0 at home. They were down 21-3, I think, against Ole Miss last year. They were down 28-0 against Alabama. It's just like, how many times we got to do this thing where even against Ohio State in 22, do you remember that game? Georgia came back and it was kind of BS calling from the refs. They were down like 34-21 or something. Like they were down 38-24, something like they let these teams get on top of them. And then for the most part, they can come all the way back. But it's not, you can't do that against Alabama. Alabama isn't that dumb where they'll get up big and then get cute and let you come back. No, Alabama just wants to kill you. So I got Alabama at 9, Georgia at 10. And this is at number 8. This is, you see the graphic right here. It's the only one where I'm like, I don't believe in this. Same with kind of number 7 too. Does Florida State deserve to be ranked at 8th? Probably not. But you beat Alabama. And I just said that this Alabama team is not the same Alabama team that played in week 1, but that's not how it works. And I'm not screwing over Florida State again for Alabama. We did this shit in 23. I'm not doing it again. I got Florida State at 8. You beat up on Alabama. I get you lost in double overtime on the road at night versus Virginia, who's a fringe top 25 team. I get it. That's just sometimes how it goes. Maybe kind of a look-ahead game for Miami. That's this week. Look, you beat up on Alabama. You got to be ahead of Alabama, and Bama beat Georgia. You got to be ahead of Georgia. That's why I got Florida State at 8. Before they lost, I probably had them at 5. So they're at 8. At 7, and a team that would have probably been at number 4 or number 5 if they didn't lose their quarterback is Oklahoma with John Mateer. I'm not going to punish. I'm going to punish them a little bit. I'm not going to knock them down to 18 because they lost their quarterback. But I do think I'm ranking how these teams are, and I respect what they did against Michigan and Auburn. But without John Mateer for a month or a couple weeks or whatever, I think you're going to get beat by teams like Texas and LSU and Alabama, especially Alabama, for what you did to them last year. So I'll bring us to number 6, and that's Indiana, and a team that did a lot of what, you saw what they did last year. They coming into this year, they're like fringe top 20. I think they were like 19, and they've just been impressive. And it started off a little slow against Old Dominion, but I think Old Dominion is a lot better than what they were last year. So I got Indiana at number 6. Excuse me. I think Fernando Mendoza, is he a Heisman favorite? No. Also, we got to stop doing this thing with these Heisman favorites where it's week 1 preseason. Arch has already won the Heisman, and then it's week 1 after LSU wins. Oh, but it's Garrett Nussmeier. And then after week 2, oh no, it's John Mateer. He's the Heisman favorite. And then after week 4, it's Indiana. It's Fernando Mendoza. He's going to win the Heisman. After week 5, it's Dante Moore. He's going to win the Heisman. Literally every single goddamn week, you guys change who. It's just, he's the number 1 pick. Colin Coward this morning was talking about how Dante Moore was the first overall pick. The week before it was Fernando Mendoza. Week before it was John Mateer. Then it was Garrett Nussmeier. Then before that it was Arch Manning and Cade Klubnik. It's just like, just wait. The Heisman has not even been decided. We're so far away from that being decided. Stop talking about the Heisman Award. We all know it should go to Jeremiah Smith anyways. But yeah, I got them at number 6. And at number 5, I got Texas A&M. And this is high. I don't remember the last time they've been this high. I really believe in Mike Elko, and I think Marcel Reed now being, obviously he's a great scrambler, but now having Concepcion and Mario Craver at receiver, look what they did against Notre Dame. I think they are phenomenal. I really fear this Texas A&M team. And before last week, I'm like, okay, they can score a lot of points, but they allowed a bunch of points. And then I watched them against Auburn, and Auburn has really good defense, and they won in kind of a defensive slug. And I get it's Auburn and Jackson Arnold. They can't do anything on offense, but still being able to win an SEC game. I don't remember if it was on the road, but win a defensive SEC game when you don't have a great defense. That's impressive. So I got them at 5. They are undefeated. And especially since I think Notre Dame should be higher than what they are, but just because of respect of all the other teams, they're that low. I do believe in A&M. They will host Mississippi State, who I know AP doesn't have them ranked, but I have them ranked. That is a home game. And I honestly think A&M is going to win that game, and I'll get more into that tomorrow. If that was on the road, I think I might pick Mississippi State. Just from what I've kind of seen from A&M over the years, I don't think they're going to go 8-4 this year. But are they going to go 12-0? Probably not. Thinking maybe like a 10-2, maybe 9-3 year. But we'll see about A&M, man. And this will bring us to our highest ranked SEC team at 4. I do my preseason stuff, and I pick the top 7 teams from each conference. Ole Miss was, I think, 8 or 9. Same with A&M. And they're the first 2 teams that I had out of my top 7. They're at number 1 and number 2 in the conference. And Oklahoma was at 7. This is it's completely upside down. And that's Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss. And I'm not even that mad at myself for not being high on Ole Miss. And that's because I just wasn't that high on Austin Simmons, which is fine. I actually think I was kind of right on Austin Simmons. Who was going to predict that they were going to have a backup quarterback from Ferris State? D2 now, he did win a Division II national championship, but a transfer backup from Ferris State that would have looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. In Trinidad Chambliss, I think he looked pretty good against LSU. Had kind of a bad pick. I don't think it was bad. It was kind of tip drill a little bit. I'm valuing that win over LSU a lot. Was it close against Kentucky and Arkansas, who aren't very good? Yes. Do I think Ole Miss is the 4th best team in the country? Probably not. I still want to see a little more from that defense. But they're at 4. They're undefeated with maybe the best win in the SEC. They've looked really impressive so far. So I do have them at number 4. At number 3 is Miami. And I know this top 3 has been arranged all over the place. No one can really decide on their top 3. But just thank God it's not an SEC team, man. Just what a time to be alive where an SEC team isn't even in the top 3. I got Miami at 3. I am waiting for Carson Beck to have a Carson Beck moment. If you know especially Georgia fans last year, you know what I mean. Will we see that against Florida State this weekend? Maybe. Their offensive line, really both the defensive line, Ruben Maine Jr., both of their trench play is top 5, maybe the best in the country. I'm curious to see if Florida State can get to him. They did get to Ty Simpson in week 1, but again, Alabama has been much improved since then. This defense is so much better than what they were last year. My only thing is I'm kind of worried a little bit about offensive consistency, especially in that Florida game. Carson Beck did not play very well, and they had a lot of short fields from interceptions and turnover on downs from Florida, and Florida just couldn't do anything the entire game. But it was a 13-7 game with Florida having the ball off of an interception from Carson Beck. So watch out for Florida State. They host this game. They're going to go on the road. Still have not left. I'm trying to look at their schedule. This is the thing in the offseason that I saw, but they don't leave the state of Florida till, oh my God, dude. They don't leave the state of Florida till week 10. They play Notre Dame at home, Bethune at home, USF at home, Florida at home. Bye week at Florida State, still in Florida. Bye week hosting Louisville, hosting Stanford, and then at SMU is going to be their first road game outside of the state of Florida. I don't know how the hell the scheduling became like that, but it is. So, and how many home games do they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 8 home games. So that isn't a huge advantage for them. Did not realize they were going to have that many home games. Usually it's only 5 or 7. But I got Miami at 3. I think right now they are probably the most consistent team. And I only say that just because they're consistent. They're not the best, I think, at each. They're just consistently, like, instead of having like an A on offense, C on defense, they're just like a B plus, A minus in both. But I do have them at 3. I like the wins over USF. I like the win over Florida and Notre Dame. But they don't really have a stellar win. Kind of more of a quality over quantity thing. But that's why they're at 3. I'm still giving them respect. But that will bring me to number 2. And a team that you could throw them at 1. You know, it doesn't really matter because these teams don't play in the regulars. I mean, they might play. But I think these are the top 2 teams in the country. And that will be Oregon at number 2. I got the Ducks. What a win on the road. And it's kind of a stupid reason. But one of the reasons why I didn't really want to put them at number 1 is, one thing, I'm an Ohio State fan. But also, I mean, reigning champs beat them in the Rose Bowl. But like, I know it's stupid. I know it's stupid. But like, you play Penn State, it's almost like a guaranteed win. I know that's crazy. They were a top 3 team. You played them on the road. Your quarterback's never been in an environment like that. But it's like it's kind of you kind of expected Oregon to win this game. Like my thing, all the logic pointed towards Penn State, and I just said, nope, I'm throwing out all of my logic for this game. I'm picking Oregon just because of what Penn State has done. And I was right. I was 100% right. Dylan Thieneman, the transfer from Purdue, we talked about him earlier. What a play. I mean, he just jumped up and took the ball out of the air. You look at the play, Aller, he kind of lofted that ball up a little bit. It didn't look like no one really expected that play to be like, oh, I'm going to take a risky shot. It was just kind of like, I'm going to make this routine throw. I'm going to layer it because I'm a senior. And nope, great play from Dylan Thieneman. I didn't realize it was as beef. He's a big dude. I think he's more of a strong safety than a free safety. What a play from him. I really wanted him at Ohio State with Caleb Downs this year. Dante Moore at the top of the Heisman favorites. He looks like, I think, the best quarterback in the country right now. Absolutely phenomenal play from him. They're the freshman receiver and the running back Hill and DeCorian Moore. What just absolute performances from them. Also, that was a fumble. Just saying. When they were in the red zone, when Oregon was in the red zone. But that will bring us to number 1 and the number 1 team in the country with the number 1 defense and the number 2 offense in the country, which I think is going to throw you at number 1. If you want to see my top 10 offenses, I highly recommend watching my top 10 offenses video I released last week. I think that was one of the most fun videos I had to make. I had fun making the graphic. I have fun making these graphics, and I know they're fun to look at on screen. So I would go watch a video. I'm going to go pin it up. I think it'll be pinned up right here, right now. You'll see it. So I recommend going to watch that video. I got Ohio State at number 1. I think they are finally starting to take the training wheels off. And, man, if you can be the number 1 team in the country at the time and then go on the road and face one of the best offenses in the country, in a place where they've won 22 straight, and that's having the training wheels on when you just lost 14 draft picks. I mean, that's insane. Julian Sand has not been asked to really do anything all year, but when he does, he has been phenomenal at it. He ran a little bit in the Washington game. If you want to watch the preview for that game, that's also on my channel, the Ohio State over Washington. We did a reaction to that game. We're going to do a preview to Minnesota that should be released tomorrow, maybe tonight or tomorrow, maybe Saturday morning. I don't know. I'm not great at. I don't want to cram too many videos towards kickoff because then nobody will watch them because games have already been happening. But Julian Sanders looked very consistent. He has the highest completion rate in the entire country at like 78, 79%. Oh my God. Even like Jeremiah Smith hasn't even really done. I mean, he's looked really good, but he hasn't had like any of the one-hand catches. He hasn't had to. Carnell has looked great. Brandon's still kind of a work in progress. I'm kind of fed up with him. I still have hope. But man, that defense are they better than last year? Probably not. I think Matt Patricia is a better coordinator. I think they are more athletic. They're way more athletic and they're way faster. Arvell Reese is just, oh my God. He's not Chase Young, but on defense, he is the closest thing we've had to Chase Young since 2019. And this team is just slowly getting better. I'm not going to pick them to repeat. And honestly, that's just because usually when teams win a championship, they go through a struggle. I've noticed that a lot of teams, like if they go 13-0, they don't really win that often. So I don't want Ohio State to lose, but I only feel like they're gonna they need to go through some adversity to win. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not gonna jinx us. I'm not gonna do any of that. I'm not gonna say we're gonna repeat. It's so hard to win a title. Man, this team reminds me of 2019, and 2019 was such a fun team to watch. This team is really fun to watch. It has a lot of interesting personality compared to last year, where a lot of the guys, they were just so old and they were so tired of losing. They were just kind of hard veterans. They weren't really like fun. This team is young. They're fun. So I got Ohio State at number one, the number one team in the country. I think they're going to be the number one team in the country until they lose. Even if Oregon beats Indiana, I still don't think they're going to go over Ohio State. I think it'll be a lot closer with like first place votes. But I do think that Ohio State will be number one until they lose. So to recap, we got Ohio State at 1, Oregon 2, Miami 3, Ole Miss 4, Texas A&M 5, Indiana 6, Oklahoma 7, Florida State 8, Alabama 9, Georgia 10, Missouri 11, Texas 12, Penn State 13, Texas Tech 14, Tennessee 15, Vanderbilt 16, LSU at 17, Michigan at 18, Notre Dame at 19, Illinois at 20, Mississippi State at 21, Georgia Tech 22, Louisville 23, USC at 24, and rounding out the top 25 is Memphis. Honorable mentions, teams like Arizona State, Virginia, USF, some of the couple first teams that are outside of the top 25. But that is my Week 6 Top 25. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching the Hot Seat College Football Show. We will be back tomorrow for Last Minute Locks for all of my preview and picks for Week 6 of the College Football 2025 season. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching, and we will see you then. Thank you.